This is Beyond the Bench with Nick Morgasen and Nick Fodera. A look at sports and pop culture from beyond common sense. The show that constantly goes off the rails and might never get back on. When you don't belong, you're a bench warmer. On this show, there's no riding the bench. This is Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 16 of Beyond the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. That's Nick Fodera. I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow the show on social media, on Twitter at Beyond the Bench 1, and on Facebook, facebook.com/BeyondTheBench1, and follow us on the podcast network on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Boy, controversy this week.
Controversy, and boy, if we got some funny stuff to talk about. We've got some funny stuff and some depressing stuff, unfortunately. But again, this is all the world we live in now. You are either laughing at how stupid something is, or crying at how stupid and wasteful something is.
Right. And by the way, we're recording this on my birthday of all days.
Happy birthday, boy.
Woo! Oh, God, I'm 29. Then the big 3 O's next year. Oi.
Oh, wait. Oh, bro, just wait. That'll be fun. Oh, so you'll be waking up and then going, wait, why does it hurt me today?
Or I'm going to wake up and say, where's my pants?
No, that doesn't happen until you're at least 35.
But boy, do we have a lot to get to. So we'll break this down and then we'll go through the stories. Whoopi Goldberg suspended by ABC over claiming that Holocaust was not about race. We'll get into all that. Now, reportedly, she is livid and threatening to quit over being suspended. We'll get to that. The White House is weighing in on Spotify misinformation. Who would have thought?
Because Joe Rogan always follows us. He's like our big, dumb meathead shadow.
Also, in unfortunate news, Miss USA 2019 Cheslie Kryst, cause of death was ruled a suicide after jumping from the 29th floor of a New York City high-rise. And her mother has officially come out and said what the official cause of death was. We'll get to that. A 19-year-old from Florida State University has created a Twitter bot called @ElonJet to track the private jet of Elon Musk. Nick made a face at me earlier. You're going to definitely want to hear this. And just to finish off a few, we have to talk about Rudy Giuliani on The Masked Singer, which Nick couldn't control himself and I couldn't control myself. I'll tell you why that relates to me later. And Wordle, the big word game craze Wordle, bought by the New York Times.
So, you know what? Let's start the show.
All right. So, numero uno. Whoopi Goldberg suspended by ABC over claim that the Holocaust was, quote, not about race.
Okay, so this really seems like out of context, that statement is really, really, really weird. But in context, it's even weirder. So she was suspended for 2 weeks, I think, without pay, right? Is that how that works?
That wasn't reported. It was just said that she was suspended. So who knows? First of all, she's getting paid.
Then again, yeah, because Whoopi again joins the chorus line of you hosts to stick their feet in their mouths.
Well,
because if it's not Meghan McCain, it's Joy Behar.
Well, she's not on there anymore. But yeah, Meghan McCain's not on there anymore. But I trust me, I get it. I didn't like her either on there. I don't like that show, period. For some reason, that the show used to be originally like it was supposed to be some entertainment, a little bit of news. Now it's a lot of news, very little entertainment, and I don't care.
I mean, it would be kind of disingenuous if something that is ostensibly targeting the women demographic to only be about, Good Morning America topics, like the frivolous shit.
Right, but The View was not originally meant to be very politically charged, if you remember.
Look at the world we live in now, Nick.
No, that's not the point. I'm talking about when it was originally focused on.
Yeah.
now it went from being, because there's been hosts over the years, Raven Simone, Kansas Cameron Bure, and others.
Rosie O'Donnell too.
But now it's become so politically charged that I'd rather make fun of them than actually watch them.
I mean, yeah, you and a million other people, but I mean, Whoopi is part Jewish, isn't she? Or is it just?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to make an accusation on that regard.
But the misconception that she's making, and of course I'm not Jewish, so the misconception that I think she's making is that the Holocaust, it absolutely was about race, but Jewish people were not, Jewish is not a race.
Well, the quote's right there, not about race. That she's and she was telling coworkers that she's going to quit over the suspension. Why? Because you're a baby and you made a dumb statement?
I mean, when you're a public figure and you say something, there are two things you should never invoke when you you should never invoke to win an argument or prove a point. One, the spirits of the undead. Two, the Holocaust. Never do that. Never do that to win an argument, because, honest to God, it's just going to create more problems than it ever solved. And I don't think that Whoopi is anti-Semitic. I just think she has a little bit of a, how shall I put this? Not bias, but
complex.
Huh?
Complex?
Not a complex. I think she's got a blind spot.
Well, here's the issue, okay? So the reason that this gets more attention than normally does, she's the moderator.
And Whoopi was never really good at being the straight man, because I mean that's not her job.
Well, first of all, I never understood how the moderator role worked on The View, because The View is a sit-down group conversation. There shouldn't be a moderator. It should be a discussion. Barbara Walters was really the last real moderator of this program. Maybe
she was a journalist.
And actually, let me correct that partially. Meredith Vieira was another good one that did it well
as well. And they were both trained journalists, so they knew they knew how to moderate.
The two biggest morons, and I'm sorry, people are going to throw tomatoes at me when I make this next statement. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar are the biggest idiots in television.
Not that I have anything against. I don't have anything against Whoopi Goldberg, by the way. The woman's a comedy legend.
I like her movies. I like the way she does comedy. I'm against the whole thing that she's dragging her biased opinions into a show that's watched by millions of people.
Well, as a Jewish individual, what do you think?
I think it was ignorant, dumbass. Like it was. You have to realize, like you said earlier, Nick, that she's a public figure. We talk about public figures, whether it's our sports show, whether it's this show, whether it's whatever we're talking about. When you're a public figure, and I love when public figures do this from time to time, where they get all angry that people are up in arms. You're a public figure. You have to own every statement that you make.
Yeah, and it's not that Whoopi is kind of being canceled for 2 weeks, but then she's coming. I was going to say Whoopi's not being canceled, but she'll be back.
She should be fired. I
don't think she should be fired. No.
In the past, anyone who's made comments about the Holocaust on television have been fired.
Usually, the people that make statements about the Holocaust usually follow something up with talking points that would not be out of place in a Nazi rally. So
that's what I'm saying. She started going off on and if you watch I almost was going to grab the video and show you that during the time when they were having the conversation, all of a sudden in the background, if you're listening very closely, they start playing the break music to try to drown it out.
Which is the TD going, please go to commercial, go to commercial, go to commercial.
But here's the problem. Who's the moderator?
She is.
So she was arguing away, making these dumb points, and ignoring the music, saying, hello, break. We used to do this in radio. I'll give you an example. Not like what happened on air, but I've had a few incidents in the past where I have a host going out of left field completely. Like not.
And they have an IFD in, right?
Well, they have their headphones on, so I have a button that I was able to press to talk to them in their ear while they were going. And this host was yelling at callers, saying some really not so nice things, to the point threatening callers on the air. Not saying names because I don't want to get in trouble for this, but
We can guess who it is, though.
well, it's not him. It was somebody else.
All right, so I wasn't there. So I wasn't thinking, but
I mean, I had other situations with that person, but basically, I had to go to break. I shut his mic off, and I said, and he's like, "Why'd you go to break?" I said, "Because you're not thinking. You can't make threats. This is the same thing. Instead of threats, it's making anti-Semitic accusations."
I don't know if it would. I don't know if it would be. I don't know if I would go so far as to call her an anti-Semite.
No, I'm not calling her an anti-Semite. I'm making anti-Semitic accusations about an event that changed history for the worst.
Yeah, good point. But still, I mean, in this case, like I said, I mean, you're a public figure. You need to expect pushback because it's not. Again, you don't invoke those things and not expect that to happen. It doesn't occur in a vacuum.
But you know what the problem is here? You know what the problem is here, Nick? You've said this before, and I've said this before. What do public figures think they can do all the time? Since
get away with anything,
so
say whatever they want, and people
no consequences. No consequences.
No consequences.
Well, guess what?
And I saw people on right-wing Twitter, bringing up Gina Carano. Gina Carano, Lucasfilm fired her because of what she. First of all,
that was Disney also.
That was Disney also, but Whoopi apologized.
Yeah,
Gina Carano doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down when they told her to knock it off.
Oh no, she was. If I remember when we covered that story, she was like, "Well, I defend my own views." Essentially,
did we cover that story?
Yeah, we did. I remember we covered that story, the very beginning. Yes,
we didn't. Beyond the Bench didn't exist.
I think it did.
Right?
I think it was the very beginning, very beginning.
But yeah, I mean, she doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down, and these things are. And she was actually trafficking in anti-Semitic propaganda.
And also,
she may not have realized where it came from, but it's definitely there.
But also, we're talking about not just ABC, but Disney kids. We're talking about kids who are going to find this stuff out with Gina Carano. Like,
also, you're spreading anti-vaccine propaganda, propaganda and anti-vax bullshit in the middle of a viral pandemic.
Right.
So how do you think your bosses are going to react?
And by the way,
they told you once to knock it off, you didn't. They told you twice to knock it off, you didn't.
And that's the problem. Like, everyone is on edge between the COVID pandemic, the political nonsense. Like, if you say something stupid, everyone is on edge now. And people are afraid of losing advertising dollars because, again, TV and radio business not doing so hot right now.
And it's not about it's not about a bias against conservatives either. If anything, they're giving too much rope to conservatives because it's like they would not have cared if Gina Carano would just shut up.
That's the problem.
And again, you have Trump administration officials being hired by CNN.
Well, that was interesting. I know exactly what you're talking about. But
and the whole thing with Jeff Zucker yesterday.
What a jerk! What I even forgot to put that story in, but we don't have time for that today. But I know why you brought that up because of the whole thing where someone is in power and I love the way he handled that one too. Oops, I didn't realize I was having a relationship with someone in my organization.
Did I forget to mention that? It seems like something you should have brought up, Jeff.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about though. It has to do with who you are, the power you have, whether you're a CEO or you're of public interest like Whoopi Goldberg, who's been on The View, I think, since early 2000s, so like 17, 18 years. And these people don't realize. And then she also was quoted in this story saying she feels ABC executives mishandled this. What did they mishandle? They're trying to protect their business.
they're trying to protect their business, but I mean, what is she accusing them of being hypocrites or?
No, she said that the suspension was not warranted.
I mean, I have a hard time. I have a hard time thinking. I have a hard time thinking that that at least a suspension of some sort was warranted. Maybe not as long as it was. Definitely not as long as it was.
The source added that Goldberg is taking the suspension hard and says she wants to leave the show. Insiders believe she's likely just sounding off. Her ego has been hurt, and she's telling people she's going to quit. Suspension from The View is like getting suspended from Bravo.
Wow.
I mean, she is a comedian. I'll give her props that she, but I wouldn't make a joke.
Tell Andy Cohen she said that.
Yeah, really. Don't say anything. And then also, and I forgot this part of the story. So the Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt was on the show to discuss her offensive remarks. Now, when the Defamation League is involved,
the anti-defamation.
Anti-Defamation.
The Defamation League is something completely different.
Sorry. Let me clarify that.
The anti-defamation.
Anti-defamation. I didn't mean it that way. You know what I meant. The anti-defamation.
Yes, I know what you meant.
CEO Jonathan Greenblatt came on the show. Now, if you look at our social media account at Beyond the Bench 1, I posted the video that they posted of the View video. And you could see the whole thing. They didn't take it down. They didn't censor it at all. What does that tell you?
Which means that they got a bit of a problem.
Why? First of all, and I've explained this to Nick many times. I'm sure you know this. In TV and radio, you have delay. You have built-in delay. Why didn't they use it?
Yeah, don't they have like they have a 5-second tape delay, right?
I know in radio it's 7 seconds. I'm assuming in TV it's probably longer.
No, like 5 seconds.
They're both around the same. So but the problem is 5 seconds was not going to stop this whole diatribe.
No. And you're going to notice.
So, but they could have done a whole host of things.
They could have done a whole host of things to nip this in the bud. But
they should have pulled her.
But that's the hypocrisy.
They should have pulled her off set after the incident. But like I was talking to my parents and other people. I'm not going to say what they said, but just in general, I was talking to a lot of people, and they were saying to me, "Well, you can't pull her off in the middle of the show. Then it looks suspicious." And but what are you talking about?
Have they done that before?
You don't think people have been pulled off set of TV shows before?
I know they walked off set, but I don't know if the View's ever done that.
I don't know this whole thing, and apparently, and this is another thing I don't get, Nick. Maybe you can explain this to me from a journalism point of view. So after the incident happened, all the ABC network shows covered the story.
Yeah, and what are you having trouble understanding?
I understand like that the other, but why would you, as your own network, cover a story that's stupid and ridiculous?
I mean, as long as you disclose that connection, it's fine. But it would be a little suspicious if they didn't cover it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I'm saying, isn't that weird that you have to talk about your own colleague?
It is weird. It is weird because it feels like, hey, look what's going on in here. My house is burning down. It's
And by the way, this all started
over time.
This all started over a discussion on The View about a Tennessee school district's decision to ban the book Maus, M-A-U-S.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? I'm not up on that. Do you know?
It's a graphic novel, ostensibly about the Holocaust. It's been, I think it's probably one of the most critically acclaimed graphic novels. I mean, I can think of, at least off the top, but a lot of. Long story short, Tennessee school district decides under this whole critical race theory, we mustn't teach mustn't teach children anything that makes white people have a sad.
Oh.
So they decide to pull the book, and then that's why, or take the book off the required reading list for the semester.
No. You were right the first time. The book was taken away. Just say the book was taken away, because that's what they're doing here.
Essentially, that's what they're doing, and that's the reason why the View was talking about it in the first place.
But how do you go from it's not about race to it's about man's inhumanity to man?
I mean, that's what the book is about.
No. She said that, and that's what got her in trouble.
Again, it's not. Again, I know I'm being Captain Pedantic here, but it kind of is about race, considering that. Again, first of all, Jewish people are not a race. Plus, there were other people that the Nazis wanted to wipe out anyway.
Right.
But again, there is no such race as Jews. That's an anti-Semitic trope.
Right, and like you said,
because we're going to eliminate the Jewish race. And what Jewish race? There's no Jewish race.
I mean, you told me this before. I've said this to many people. I'm not the biggest fan of Whoopi. I like her comedy. I like the movies. What's that movie series that she did back in the day? That yeah, I like Sister Act. Those are good movies. She does them well. Right, but
her stand-up was always funny.
But could you just stay out of the political spotlight, please? Because obviously,
don't invoke the Holocaust.
Right,
please,
it's enough.
Even if you're trying to win an argument, please don't invoke the Holocaust.
And don't say anything about race in the Holocaust, because you're going to piss off a bunch of people.
Oh, God.
All right, speaking of pissing off people, the White House and Spotify. So we talked about this starting last week with Neil Young and Joe Rogan and Spotify, how Neil Young basically was daring Spotify to call his bluff. Hey, it's between me and Joe Rogan. And guess who won?
Who do you think they picked?
You really think Joe Rogan?
Was it the one that they paid $100 million for? I think so.
And now the stories are out there reportedly that they are going to start putting misinformation warnings on his podcast whenever he talks about COVID. And now a story comes out that the White House decided to make a comment on the Spotify controversy. Why?
Now there's not much that Biden can do about it. But of course, they instead of working towards COVID relief, you definitely or at least trying to fix anything in this country, or forgiving student debt, you decide you really need to put in your 2 cents about this whole Spotify nonsense.
Well, so Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who has put her foot in her mouth quite a few times.
Oh yes, I would imagine she likes the taste of her own toenails.
She called it, quote, a positive step that Spotify had decided to add disclaimers about COVID misinformation in response to criticism from medical professionals and musicians that some content in particular from provocative podcaster Joe Rogan spreads false information about the coronavirus and vaccines. Okay, good. So you gave your opinion. Big deal.
And you're and I mean, what else could she say? Considering that,
Oh, there is more. Quote, our hope is that all major tech platforms and all major news sources, for that matter, be responsible and be vigilant to ensure that American people have access to accurate information on something as significant as COVID-19. That certainly includes Spotify. So now...
Let me stop you right there, Jen. They're not.
They're not. They don't care.
They're not. If you're really appealing to the better angels of the... If you're really appealing to the better angels of the tech sector's nature, you're going to be left waiting a long time.
So wait a second.
You can't appeal to their souls because they don't have any.
So if you're going to go after Spotify,
don't give a shit if people die.
Wait a minute. So if you're going to go after Spotify, does that mean you're going to go after every podcast company, every digital company? Why don't we throw Amazon in there as well?
Aside from the logistics of it, which they could probably do, but again, it doesn't change the fact that the people that you want to try to convince to get the people that are skeptical about vaccines are not listening to Joe Rogan. The people that are listening to Joe Rogan are the people that are never going to get it ever, and they think that the government is tracking them through their friggin' blood. I don't know,
Well,
or the government's being run by the lizard people.
I know we keep saying, I know we keep joking about that, but that's how ridiculous we think all these claims are.
There's a specific race of mole rats beneath the Earth's crust, and they secretly control all the governments of planet Earth. Fear the mole people.
Oh gosh. She also goes on to say, so this disclaimer is a positive step, but we want every platform to continue doing more to call out misinformation and disinformation while also uplifting accurate information. Now
do Facebook.
Wait a minute. So I can relate to this most working at a politically right-winged radio station constantly, where I always had to step in when I was producing a show and say, you can't say that. You can't make that statement. You're an idiot.
And if they wanted to crack the whip on Joe Rogan, they absolutely could. They could pull rank.
No, they won't. Well, they wouldn't. The reason they're not going to is because that's the cash cow.
No, I'm saying they can. Not that they would. They absolutely could.
Yeah, but Rogan will just go on to the next platform. Trust me, there's plenty of platforms. And if he really wanted to do it himself, he probably could do it himself.
He did do it himself when he was a YouTube channel, right?
Let's put it this way, just to go back through the business that I understand the best, is that Joe Rogan was doing it on YouTube for the longest time.
Yeah, it was.
And eventually YouTube kind of did what they're doing.
YouTube had enough.
Well, it's not even just that. YouTube doesn't... Back in the day, YouTube used to allow a lot of free speech. You agree with me on this, right? Like that they were different.
It's not their... Yes, they were different.
Now,
in a lot of ways,
they went from being completely open to almost shutting down every big name that they can get their hands on.
But when the name you're specifically invoking has invited far right figures to basically just go in and peddle their bullshit.
No. I agree with you on that.
Conspiratorial bullshit.
No.
That is going to become a problem.
I agree with you. Trust me, I worked with someone who got their YouTube channel banned for 30 days because he couldn't control himself with his politics. We'll get to that later. But my point is, with this whole thing, first of all, can the White House worry about the more serious matters that are going on in the world?
I said that.
No, but I'm agreeing that stop talking about Joe Rogan. Let the tech
you can't
world...
do anything about Joe Rogan anyway, even though God knows, I really wish you would. But there's nothing you can do.
But look at I want to talk about
Spotify is a private company. They can do whatever they like.
Are they a private company? I thought they're on the stock exchange.
They're publicly traded, but they are technically not a government-run business, so therefore, they are not. The government can't tell them what to do.
I think technically it's run out of the country, right?
Huh?
I think it's not housed here in the U.S. I think
it is actually.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I can look that up. I know the CEO's not from here. I know that.
No, the CEO's not from here.
But just to look at the list for a second. So we talked about Neil Young.
Which is not to say that Spotify is absolutely is not complicit in this.
Right.
They absolutely are in letting misinformation and conspiratorial bullshit and the tinfoil hat junk proliferate through their platform. Facebook too.
Let's clarify. Well, I was just about to say, Spotify is not the only one doing this. You could throw iHeart. You could throw out Westwood One, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anything that you can post.
TikTok to a certain extent.
TikTok, Reddit. You could throw any platform out there. They all peddle misinformation, and not because they're trying to. It's because people post on those platforms, and they don't delete it.
I mean, in Facebook's case, they were deliberately doing that because it drove engagement when people got angry.
The one issue I will say with
Facebook was doing it on purpose.
No, but wait. The one thing I would say about Facebook
YouTube was also doing it on purpose.
That Facebook had to do something because it was getting out of control. Like threats were happening on Facebook. But now they've gone a complete 180. And even if you mention the term COVID-19, you get a censor warning.
There are still Facebook pages that get around it by knowing how to code those words. So you don't say this, you say something else.
Well, that just sounds like a lot of wasted effort on their
Again,
part.
you don't realize how resourceful people are when they're
Oh no,
dedicated.
trust me, I understand.
People are very resourceful when they are trying to peddle bullshit.
But I want to look at the list for a second. So Neil Young, we talked about last week. Joni Mitchell, we talked about last week.
David Crosby, Stephen Stills, and Graham Nash.
That just came out, right? And there's a bunch of other names. I saw it all over Twitter.
Indy Irie too, I think.
Yes, and also Prince Harry and Meghan,
which I didn't realize they had a podcast there.
They just signed a major exclusive podcast network deal with Spotify.
Not no mores.
No, they're still on there.
Oh, they are still on there.
I don't think it started yet, actually. I think they just it's like when Obama and Michelle Obama signed that deal with Spotify. Spotify is making a cash cow out of podcast networks and podcasts. So here's that name you were saying, by the way, India Ari. Let me see who else. I think Niles Lofgren.
Yeah, Nils Lofgren.
I think that was pretty much it. I'm sure more names are going to come out because that's just what's happening. Everyone, I think I saw Peter Frampton was another one, I think. But just all the names are coming out of nowhere and say, let's get into solidarity. We're going to remove our stuff to say, fuck you, Joe Rogan. What do you think Spotify is going to say?
I mean, they misunderstand how, it's not that I don't agree with them, I do, but you misunderstand how tightly entwined Spotify and Joe Rogan are. They are not going to drop him. They will drop everything else and become the Joe Rogan network.
Well,
if they could.
Let's be careful, though. If it becomes to a point where everybody is leaving Spotify, they might have a problem at some point.
Oh, yeah, they'll definitely have a problem. But I think it will take a lot for them to decouple from the monster that they have made.
Because I guarantee you,
or the monster that they have enabled.
Now, here's the secret in the radio, podcasting, and TV business. I've talked about how the numbers work before, especially in radio. When we talked about someone that we used to get annoyed with in New York radio every day, Mike Francesa, everyone would complain that he did this, and that, and got away with it. He was making $5 million a year. So for them to make that, to pay that money, they have to make 5 times that in revenue. So think about that from a Spotify, Joe Rogan standpoint. That means
the revenue that they must be pulling in order to pay him $100 million.
They have to be pulling in $500,000. No, let me take that back. Half a
$500 million.
$500 million. Excuse me. They have to be pulling in $500 million to pay that. So if you think that he's going anywhere anytime soon, then you're asking Spotify to essentially give up $400 to $500 billion. and you know what the answer to that is, right?
I mean, they have the money to do that, but again.
And by the way, between the Obama's podcast network and the Dutch, the Duke and the Duchess, and
are they still called that?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe not. But fine. Prince Harry and Meghan. They're making so much money off those 3 alone that they'll say, goodbye. We don't need you.
Again, they are making money hand over fist peddling bullshit. And until they don't make money hand over fist peddling bullshit, they will continue to peddle. Do you understand?
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking to someone like myself who's been in this business for quite a while that understands how the bullshit is peddled.
Exactly.
So, all right. Away from misinformation to an unfortunate story.
So this, for those of you who don't know, the Miss USA, is it? Oh, can you call her champion or
Yeah, she was Miss USA 2019.
Miss USA 2019, Cheslie Kryst, died by suicide the other day, and it's a really tragic story. I mean, she, like Nick said in the intro, she had committed suicide by jumping off the 29th floor of a Manhattan high rise, and to be honest with you, I mean, I see a lot of shock. It's like, how could this have happened? Or she seems happy, and to that I would say, I mean, you don't know the demons that people carry around, especially being a black woman in the business that she had that she had chosen to enter.
Yeah, well, she wasn't just that. Let's be very clear that she was a TV correspondent. I think she was a lawyer also.
Yeah, so she was a multi hyphenate.
She was unbelievable, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and that's what makes the story so tragic.
And we don't realize. I think she put up a post that everyone said was very concerning in a lot of ways. I think earlier that morning, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I'm not sure.
And I was it's tragic. It's very tragic in a lot of ways that you're jumping off the 29th floor of a high-rise building. I think she left a note also, apparently, saying that she was not happy, that she wasn't doing enough. And what? Not doing enough?
I mean, again, this is what this is what depression does to people, where you're not thinking logically, you're not thinking, as somebody who struggled with that. I mean, we both of us have at different points in life, not to that extent, but
No. Let's
makes
be
you
clear.
feel
Yeah.
like you are less than worthless, and it seems like this is what had happened here, unfortunately.
So she fought for social justice. She was Miss USA. She was a host on Extra. She was a working. No, I don't want to say working class. Working woman.
Like I said, a multi hyphenate.
She was living the dream.
Yeah, which again, everything seems good on the outside, but on the inside, I mean, like I said, we all have our demons that we struggle with, and it just seems like hers won out in the end, and that's just it is again just horrifying.
So she was an attorney
and if I could, I mean, just say, for those of you struggling with the same thing, please don't hesitate to go to seek out help. Believe me, you are not alone.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255. This has been out there a lot, and I think it's important.
If you think that you are alone and that you are worthless, you are none of those things.
Yeah, don't ever feel worthless. I mean, if you have family is the most important in life. And just reading some of her stuff. So she was an attorney with an MBA, was crowned Miss USA as Miss North Carolina in May 2019, went on to finish in the top 10 of the Miss Universe 2019 competition. And also she was a part of that year. She and 3 other women became the first group of Black women in pageant history to hold all 4 major titles in a single year.
Which is impressive.
I mean, to be a lawyer, to be a host on Extra, to fight for women's and Black rights, this is not just your average person. It's not. It's she was an unbelievable woman, and too young too.
The only thing I really can say, I mean, just to wrap this up, is just, condolences to her family.
And apparently we found out also that her mother came out and said that she was privately battling depression.
Which, again, I mean, it's not... It's horrible. It really is. That's really all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, prayers to her family. This story kind of threw me off guard in a lot of ways because between the whole COVID situation and the fight for rights, and the world is not in exactly the best of places.
No, it is not.
So I don't blame people for having
For feeling down.
mental psychological issues.
Believe me, we're all in the same boat together.
Right. We got to
You're not alone.
Right. That's the biggest thing. And that's why, and I'll say it again, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline 800-273-8255. And like everyone who's been promoting this, you're not alone. I think they're a 24/7 around the clock service where you can talk to somebody always. I've always wanted to see what it's like to work in there. I'm kind of fascinated by this service, and just to see, because you have to be a different type of person to work at the Prevention Lifeline.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, it's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not for the faint of heart. No.
So just everyone try to relax, try to just take it one day at a time, as they say.
Reach out if you need it, because there's always somebody with an open ear.
Right.
In fact, I've got 2 of them.
Yeah, we have 4 right here alone. So just
and that's not counting the other ears. Oh wait.
Right.
Shit, I gave it away.
All right. Let's move on to from sad to question mark.
Question mark is kind of, so Nick explained to me before we went on what the hell this actually is. So I guess this, for those of you who don't know, 19-year-old Florida University student who probably should be working in the space program at this point, created a Twitter bot that is able to track Elon Musk's private jet anywhere it goes. If it's up in the air, he knows where it is.
Oh, I love this story.
Elon Musk, I think he offered Musk offered him $5,000.
It's right there on the banner. So he offered a Florida University student, and the name of that student is Jack Sweeney, $5,000 to shut down the @ElonJet Twitter bot account following Elon's private jet. Basically, there was a map out there, and I saw him post it. There's like hundreds of thousands of flights, even outside the country, that he was able to track. And so he offered him $5,000, and he had the balls to basically say, "I'll take $50,000."
To which Elon said no.
He said no and blocked him.
So the Twitter account stays up as it is. So for those of you who don't know, this is not new technology, by the way. You can track any flight. It's surprisingly easy how easily you can track a flight you're on. Delta uses that technology. United uses that technology.
They use it for missing planes.
Yeah. And they use it if you've got a relative up on a plane, you can track where they are. The exact plane. All you need to do is enter the flight number.
I mean, I'm surprised Twitter hasn't gotten behind this and tried to sponsor it.
I mean, again, I think this has more to do with, hey, what are you doing, Elon? It's like, I mean, granted, he's 19. He probably did this just to fuck with Elon Musk, which I'd imagine is its own cottage industry at this point.
It's really funny. I mean,
it is funny.
And Elon, who, I don't know how to describe Elon, smoking weed all the time, and
he thinks he's Tony Stark, but he ends up being Dr. Wily. He thinks he's Tony Stark, but he's actually Dr. Robotnik.
And what's funny is, though, apparently to keep this business going, he's selling shirts like of Elon like smoking weed, and it's really funny, actually. You can't make this stuff up. Sweeney said he believed Musk a little bit about the security risk, but that he felt that because he has a security team, any concern was just worry.
I mean, the man's a billionaire for a reason, right?
Excuse me. It's interesting. It says Sweeney also runs jet trackers for Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. How come we haven't heard about those yet?
I mean, can you track a rocket into space?
Well, no, these are private jets. He's tracking all their private jets.
I mean, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, though.
Of course it's funny. I want to know where these billionaires are all the time. Come on. You can't make these things up. I tried to, and obviously, with full disclosure, I tried to reach out and get this kid on because this kid's got to be really smart if he's able to. I mean, I know bots are old news, but
it was probably disgustingly easy.
He must be smart though in some way.
Yeah, he's got to be. He probably should be working for the space program at that point.
He said it says here that he's interested in aviation. So there you go. I mean, I'm sure right now that Elon Musk is basically doing this because he's like, "How did my jet get tracked? Hey, lackeys, fix this!"
If you bugged me, didn't you? You bugged my clothes. So yeah, he's basically probably just walking around in the nude because he thinks somebody surreptitiously stuck a tracker up his ass.
Oh my god, that just got
me. I'd start fucking with them further. They're in your toilet, Elon. They watch you as you poop.
Well, speaking of trackers up somebody's ass, Rudy Giuliani. So
the coup de grace.
So
the story I was waiting to talk about.
I see this last night, and I get bombarded with messages and texts, basically saying, "Look at the story! Look at the story!" I'm like, "Ugh." I'm like, "Somebody help me!"
It was Groundhog Day yesterday in more ways than one.
I was like, "Fuck! Like, get this story out of my face!"
Giuliani.
Get this shit out of my face. Jesus.
So for those of you who don't know, there was a taping of that Masked Singer show, which I actually don't watch, but there was a taping of the show, so it wasn't live. And they got to the point where they unmasked the big guy, the guy in the big costume, or whatever the hell it is. So they yanked the head off, and who's underneath? Like the world's worst stripper? It's Rudy Giuliani. And Robin Thicke and Ken Jeong get so disgusted that they get up and walk out of the taping. But Jenny McCarthy, of course, stayed to banter with him, which is just par for the course for her, but still.
You know what the worst part is? This is probably what Rudy did when he got revealed.
I mean, first of all, I have several questions. Most of them end in what the fuck. But I do have to ask, who the fuck thought it was a good idea to put Rudy Giuliani on The Masked Singer?
I'm surprised that he can even walk around and
the man
be that
who's under congressional subpoena for inciting an insurrection against the government. If this was 1865, he'd be hung by the neck for treason, and he's on a fucking reality show?
Holy shit. No, I agree with you. It's just like, according to Deadline and TMZ, the recent casting and unmasking of another conservative politician, Rudy Giuliani, drew backlash, like you said, prompting Robin Thicke and Ken Jeong to walk off set. Now, what does that say about them? Because they can't control their political intake during a reality show.
I mean, I would too. I mean, a political... Sean Spicer is one thing, but Rudy Giuliani? I mean, come on.
It says, according to Deadline, judges Nicole Scherzinger and Jenny McCarthy, Wahlberg played along and engaged in the usual post-reveal banter with Giuliani, but the other two regular panelists exited the stage in disgust, but eventually returned back to the judging desk, although it is unclear if they returned during or after the episode's taping.
Oh my God. Whose idea was it?
Fox.
Whose idea was it?
Fox. I can already tell you it was Fox's idea. They want ratings.
Oh God! It's
Are you?
what
Come
did
on.
you think was going to happen, though?
I mean, and apparently this was taped, so they can control the whole narrative when it comes out.
We'll never see that episode.
Yeah, you will. Of course you will. I think it's the first episode.
Yeah, they're going to cut that part out, though.
No, they're not.
They're absolutely going to cut that part out.
Why do you think they're going to cut it out?
Or they'll reshoot it with somebody else underneath that costume.
No. First of all, do you realize how viral that's going to make them?
Which again is the problem here, because you did it specifically to get that kind of reaction, and that's kind of fucked up.
So apparently, the season premieres on Fox on March 9th, so we're about a month away from it ever seeing TV. However, it remains to be seen if Giuliani's controversial reveal and the judge's outraged reaction will make the episode's final cut. Oh, that's interesting, like you said. But
it's a good chance it doesn't.
Let's make something very clear, okay? For the million people who sent me this text message, knowing that I worked with the man at the radio station, okay? This man is nuts.
Capital N, capital U, capital T, capital S. Nuts.
And speaking of nuts, he doesn't have any.
I mean, I wouldn't know about that.
But it makes total sense. And I guarantee you, the radio station of my former employment is going to jump all over this and use it as promotion for themselves.
I guarantee you he's going to bring it up the next time he's live.
Of course he does.
He's going to bring it up. He's going to brag. He's going to say that they're trying to cancel Rudy Giuliani.
Of course. And Fox knew what they were doing when they got into the Rudy Giuliani boat.
That's the cynical ratings-driven bullshit that allows the borderline fascists what's next? We get the Mansons on Family Feud?
Nope, Trump's going to end up under one of the costumes on Masked Singer.
Oh Christ!
Can you imagine? If they got Rudy, then they're not that far off. I mean, heck, what was it? The first season they had Sarah Palin.
So does that mean we're actually going to have Steve Bannon on Jeopardy?
Who knows? Well, first he would have to get out of jail first.
And all the answers he'll give will be, "What is white power?" No, that's not it.
I mean, what? You know who actually would be funny on that show? Obama.
That would be funny though.
Because I think he could at least handle it and be funny in that way.
He could at least handle it.
Just to leave a lasting image in your head, Sarah.
Plus, he's not completely nuts.
Right. Sarah Palin was revealed twerking to Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Oh, God.
Sorry if you're eating food while watching this.
Thank you for that mental image.
But I'm just frustrated.
Excuse me, I'm gonna go put my head through the wall to try to get rid of that.
But I know how he is because I produced shows for him back in the day. He's not the lovable, nice guy that everybody makes him out to be. Okay, he likes the attention.
Right now,
what?
Are you spilling some gossip right now?
No, I'm just telling you that people think, oh, well, they put him on Masked Singer. He must be this amazing, nice guy that.
If you only knew.
That knows how to laugh at himself. Trust me, he knows how to laugh and make an ass out of himself. That's a fact. I can tell you.
He knows how to laugh. He knows how to make an ass out of himself.
Trust me, I know that firsthand. I can tell you that.
You are laughing at him, but not laughing with him.
So, but I'm telling you, my phone blew up like a bad viral tweet last night. Not that I put out a bad viral tweet. That it just felt like my phone wouldn't stop buzzing last night.
Oh, because everybody wants to know the inside scoop.
And I'm like, get away from me. I don't know what goes on with him anymore. I just know he's a jerk and has no clue how to handle himself in the public. I mean, heck, he gave a press conference in front of a pawn shop?
No, it was a landscaping company.
No,
4 seasons total landscaping.
And I remember when that story broke and I had to deal with that nonsense.
Meanwhile, a couple a couple of days after that, he was having a press conference, and the
the hair dye. I had to deal with that one too.
Holy shit!
Trust me, because when you're a producer of a radio show and you have to deal with callers who will do anything in their power to trick you to get on air, which I was pretty good at that stuff, getting people not to be on air.
Because they're probably just calling to troll.
Of course! He is a giant trolling...
He's a magnet. He's a troll magnet.
No one cares about his political opinions. All they care about is how can we troll him next?
Because it's so phenomenally easy to do.
I used to sit there stressed out during that radio program and be like, oh shit, what the hell am I going to deal with today?
Okay, let's get out a clipboard. What crazy shit is he going to say today?
Here's the tote board. I have an imaginary chalkboard behind me. I should do a poll question. Which topic am I going to deal with today? Which shitstorm am I going to deal with today? Oh.
Top 4 inches on the board, our survey says. 4 seasons! Ding, 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 ding.
I mean, all I could say is that this situation is one giant... Oh.
That's right. Beyond the Bench has taken a trip to the circus of Rudy Giuliani.
I mean,
and I don't know why we're here. We're being dragged into it like some weird horror movie circus.
I mean, just be careful. You might have to clean up the elephant shit that comes out from behind him anyway. Anyway, that's that story. Anyone who tells you that Rudy is a nice person and will do anything to help anybody, America's mayor, bullshit. Just read through the tea leaves. That's the best answer I can give you at this point.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish off on one more story, which I think is kind of a funnier story. Wordle. So Wordle was bought by the New York Times.
So the guy who created it has said that the workload of doing something that's, monumentally popular now due to the spread of social media, he says the workload is kind of too much for him to handle, which is understandable. But the New York Times came a-calling and offered him 7 figures, and I guess they own it now.
Yeah, and...
So are we counting down to a paywall, or what?
Oh, there definitely has to be a paywall.
They're going to find a way to monetize it.
And you know what?
Do.
It's a damn shame if they do that, because it's already popular. And I'm going to go back to a radio reference for a second. When Howard Stern was on terrestrial radio, he had 20 million listeners a week. A week! When he went to satellite, he went to 6 to 8 million, which is still nothing to sneeze at. But when you have to, what happens when you have to pay for something?
It costs money. It has to come out of your wallet.
And what goes through people's minds when something moves from free to a paid service?
How much do I have to pay for it?
And what am I getting out of it? So I'm just telling you right now, they're going to lose a fortune.
Well, it was fun while it lasted.
Actually, did you see what else the New York Times reportedly bought?
What?
The Athletic?
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah,
Remember we talked about that a couple weeks ago?
We did talk about that a couple weeks ago.
It was just rumor. Now, apparently, that's a double paywall if you think about it.
Well, the Athletic is already a paywall, isn't it?
But I'm saying it's like a double paywall because now it's going to go behind a New York Times paywall. Watch. You have to pay the Athletic paywall, and then you have to pay the New York Times paywall just so you can read the stuff at the Athletic.
Oh, God, help us all.
But Wordle, and a lot of people haven't been saying this. You realize that Wordle is a newer version of Lingo?
Yeah.
If you remember the game show on television with Chuck Woolery?
Yes, I do.
So, how did this garner low 7 figures money?
Because it's popular.
But I'm just saying, it's Lingo. Lingo should go sue their asses for this idea.
Oh, God.
It's another form of lingo, because literally when you put the words in, it'll say, well, This color means it's the right letter. This color means it's the right letter, not in the wrong spot. And this color means it's not in the word. It's the same thing. So they just decided, all right, we'll tweak it partially and we'll just slap another name on it and call it Wordle. Don't get me wrong. I think Wordle is fun. I won't play it as much. I just haven't. But great. Now it's behind another paywall. Well, we'll leave it free for now. For now. That's all that means. For now. Reminds me of a bad Avenue Q song, by the way. I like Avenue Q, but
all right.
I don't know. But this was a great episode. This had a lot of great stories. And Nick, you're gonna have your hands full picking clips out of this episode for sure.
All right. So just make sure that you like and subscribe.
I think we're out of breath.
Empty the bench. Yeah, I feel like I just ran a mile. Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on social media at ETB Network. Make sure you follow Beyond the Bench on Twitter at Beyond the Bench 1. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Beyond the Bench 1.
So for Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. This was episode 16 of Beyond the Bench. We will be back next week. There is a few guests up my sleeve, so just pay attention to the next couple of weeks. We might have another radio person coming on this show. Actually, a radio duo. That's a tease. That's what we call a tease in the business. So for Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. We will see you next week, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you back on the bench.